Andrew.
See why there are some people in your party who believe when it comes to your allies, you're less likely to do an inquiry or get rid of someone. When it comes to your enemies, people like John Setka or Adam Somyurek and various people in the Victorian branch, you're more likely to act.
I act where there's a need for a response, like on John Setka. I make no apologies for acting when I became leader to take action against John Setka. I remember at the time people said, oh, well, there'll be some pushback, and indeed there was pushback to that response. But it was appropriate, and I stand by it.
But you have situations, for example, you shut down the Victorian branch. It's now been shut down for nearly 2 years. The New South Wales branch of the Labor Party, which backed you into the leadership, there was $100,000 in an Audi bag from a suspected Chinese agent. You didn't shut them down. You're not holding an inquiry into the Kimberley Kitching bullying allegations. Are you just looking after your mates?
Andrew, I did shut down the New South Wales branch. I did shut it down. We had a review.
Not administration. You've still got a General Secretary there.
We did shut it down, and Michael Lavarch was put in charge of the inquiry. The General Secretary who was there no longer is there at that time. We instituted a whole series of reforms and a complete restructuring of the New South Wales branch upon the recommendations of the independent review.
But Labor members in New South Wales can vote. Labor members in Victoria can't vote for their candidate at the moment. It's not a very satisfactory situation, is it?
We went through a process whereby we had a review in New South Wales. That review, where there was a need for a reform of the branch, those reforms were instituted. There's now a whole range of independent tribunals and responses at arm's length from the day-to-day political argy-bargy that gets to consider that. There's independent scrutiny of financial control, including people from outside of the political system, so they have to be appointed with the support of everyone in the branch in order to conduct those inquiries.
Have you spoken?
And in Victoria, we had an intervention. We followed. We appointed Steve Bracks and Jenny Macklin, just as we appointed serious people in New South Wales. We appointed serious people in Victoria. They've made recommendations. Those recommendations are being followed through.
There's an article in the newspaper today which suggests there was a belief in the leadership group that Kimberley Kitching was leaking to members of the government and even to the Prime Minister's office. Is that why she was kicked off the Tactics Committee?
People are on and off the Tactics Committee. This fellow here was on the Tactics Committee, then he was off the Tactics Committee, Chris Bowen, and he was on the Tactics Committee.
But did you believe she was leaking to the government, Mr Albanese?
I was on the Tactics Committee, and I was removed from the Tactics Committee after 2013.
Did you believe she was leaking to the government?
Hang on, I'll answer questions, but if we can be polite. In 2016, then I was put back on the Tactics Committee. Joel Fitzgibbon was removed from the Tactics Committee. From time to time, there are changes made to our procedures and to composition of committees in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. That is the normal processes of political discourse. There's another fellow behind me called Ed Husick. He was on the front bench of the Labor Party. He stepped back from the front bench of the Labor Party for a period of 2 years before he returned as a shadow cabinet minister. No one suggested, I don't think, during that time that that was anything other than what happens in politics is that there are often more people want a position than a position is available.
But Blakey, you haven't answered the question. Did you believe that Kimberley Kitching was leaking to the government? Did you or your Senate team believe that?
Well, I can answer questions on behalf of myself, Andrew. And in terms of myself, people, I saw that speculation today. I'm not aware of the basis of that speculation. Kimberley Kitching's passing is a tragedy. And the idea that we can answer a question about whether Kimberley Kitching spoke to someone at any particular time or not, I'm not aware of. I read today, for example, about Kimberley Kitching having a discussion with the Vice President of the Liberal Party, I think Tina McQueen. That's the first I've heard of it. But Kimberley Kitching's passing is a tragedy. And I think that Kimberley Kitching deserves much better than an ongoing discussion about whether she spoke to the Vice President of the Liberal Party or someone else at any particular time.
Was
Senator
anyone...
Albanese,
Is
on
Andrew
Kimberley
Charlton
Kitching?
going to be the candidate for Parramatta?
I'll exhaust Andrew first.
Was anyone in your office, including your Chief of Staff, made aware that Kimberley Kitching felt bullied at any time?
No.